This week, the Civil War is fought at sea. On the 13th, the first ship-to-ship action of the war. At Pensacola Harbor, which is around here, the panhandle of Florida, Lieutenant John Henry Russell of the Union successfully sinks the CSS Judah, a Confederate privateer. Now, you might notice this is the first time I've really talked about naval action of the war in a very long time. And that's because not much changes from week to week of the situation, but it is important to remember that the Union blockade is omnipresent. Let's finish up the Battle of Cheat Mountain from last week. If you remember, the Union is defending from well-dug and fortified positions, who are, of course, led by Brigadier General Reynolds. The Confederacy is hoping to use numbers to dislodge the Union. They're led by full General Robert.E.Lee. Last week, only the first of the Confederate attacks failed. This week, it immediately starts out with Robert.E.Lee's main force meeting with the main force of the Union, which is led in person by Reynolds. The fight is long. Musket fire scares even the dead, and death itself picks off people at seemingly random. But the Confederates' numbers fail them. Reynolds, realizing how vicious this attack, worries about the other group and starts sending soldiers over there, hoping to reinforce what is very likely to be a mostly destroyed garrison. The Battle of Cheat Mountain is fought over many days, the 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th. And because of this, it has many interludes. During one of these interludes, the Union tried to do some reconnaissance. They look around their area, and they find a single Confederate looking at them. They immediately fire, hoping to kill what could probably best be seen as a scout. It isn't a scout. Colonel Washington. Yes, Colonel Washington, a descendant of George Washington, the U.S.'s first president, is killed in this battle. He is a member of the staff for which Lee is very much entitled to listen to. And for the men which Reynolds sent to reinforce the 300-strong garrison, they come across very relaxed and very much not destroyed garrison. I assume that the reaction was quite angry after having to trudge along in the heat for what is at best described as some good R&R. The death of Colonel Washington shows Lee that this battle was a mistake. He withdraws. The Union lose 88 men, and the Confederacy 90 men. On the 16th, the Ironclad Board of the Union recommends the creation of 3 ironclads. The board is made up of quite influential characters within the U.S. Navy. Commodore Joseph Smith, Commodore Hiram Paulding, Commander Charles H. Davis, and Assistant Secretary of the Navy Gustavus Fox. Ironclads are relatively new, with the French making the real first one, at least first active one, just last decade, and the English trying to carry out released theirs not too long after. Ironclads have proved their effectiveness in theory. Heavily armored, sometimes seen as indestructible, but expensive to make. This recommendation from what is very truly a biased board shows that the Union might be hunkering down for a longer war, because why waste so much money investing in ships that are going to be used in only a few more months of war? On the 17th, Marius Peak starts teaching former slaves near Fort Monroe. If you remember, Major General Benjamin Bower of the Union has been freeing slaves by calling them contraband. Now, I know when I've been talking about this war, I depict it as a very evil place, a truly horrific action, and it is. War is not good. But it is important to remember the small good that people do even during the worst of times. Marius Peak truly is an inspirational story. Well, isn't that heartwarming? Of course, the exact same day, a battle happens, specifically in Liberty, Missouri, which is actually marked on the map, specifically right here, a little bit above the Missouri River, very close to Independence, Missouri. The Union is led by Lieutenant Colonel John Scott, who has 500 men of the 3rd Iowa, 100 men of Missouri pro-Unionists, and one piece of artillery. There are 3,500 Confederates led by Brigadier General David Atchison for the Confederacy in this battle. At 2 in the morning, the Union camp is woken and already on the move. They engage in a 5-hour march, which is sure to wake up the more sleepy-eyed of their members for this upcoming battle. At 7, they reach Liberty, but there is no opponent to be seen, so they send out scouts to do reconnaissance for them and possibly find the enemy force they're supposed to be in conflict with. The main Union force has to wait for hours, as until 11 a.m. that the Union scouts hear gunfire from Blue Mills Landing and is able to report that back to the main Union camp. They engage on another very long march, getting to Blue Mills Landing, and there's no opponent there. Despite no enemy being at Blue Mills Landing, they can continue their march down the road. The Union force is tired, very angry, and then from their left, was it their left, or was it their right? Both sides. Yes, both of the Union flanks are being hit by Confederate gunfire. Luckily for Scott, he has a cannon, and 2 canister shots later, the ambushers on both sides are forced back. But then, a strong concentrated volley hits the cannon, and its crew are killed. Scott realizes the position is very precarious, and orders a retreat back to Liberty. While they're retreating, they're constantly being harassed by Confederate forces. Then Atchison thinks that maybe the Union's right flank is a little weak, and has a very strong concentrated flanking maneuver on it. Gunfire is traded, but it is not enough to break the Union flank. The Union successfully withdraws to Liberty, Missouri. Instead of attacking the very small force, Atchison instead decides to reinforce Major General Sterling Price at Lexington. On the topic of Lexington, Missouri, which is around here, it's again situated on the Missouri River. Major General Sterling Price launches an attack on the 18th, forcing the Union back into its innermost fortifications. But then, cannon fire from these fortifications blast the Confederate forces them back. A grueling siege that is likely to continue at least into the next day, if not the next week. On a more touching note, the Union forces are around Masonic College, Lexington, Missouri. There are many springs and wells for them to drink from, except any time a Union soldier goes to retrieve water, they are shot by a Confederate sharpshooter. Out of desperation, Colonel James Mulligan has women go retrieve water for his very thirsty men. Major General Sterling Price orders that no Confederate fires at these women at all. Major General Sterling Price is a very interesting figure, to say the very least. But don't think that his reluctance to harm women dampens his belligerent spirit towards the Union forces at Lexington, Missouri. While there's no fighting on the day of the 19th, on the night of the 19th, Confederate forces start taking the hemp bales, throwing them in the Missouri River, and then retrieving them. We'll see what happens of this plan next week, if anything. First thing on the 19th, pro-Confederates of Kentucky, like former Governor of Kentucky, Charles S. Moorhead, are arrested for disloyalty. Also on the 19th, Brigadier General Felix Zollicoffer orders 800 Confederates to raid Camp Johnson, which is situated right in the Cumberland Gap, the meeting point of Virginia, Kentucky, and Tennessee. Defending Camp Johnson is Captain Isaac Black with 300 untrained Union men. Captain Black's first plan is to try to remove the makeshift bridges that he has connecting the camp to the outside. He is unsuccessful. Second thing he tries to do is engage in a long-range skirmishing action. This goes against him because the Confederates are well more trained than his men. Surprisingly, Captain Black is able to do a fighting retreat. The Confederates, of course, win this fight, but they lose 7 men doing so. They only lose 1 man and 13 wounded. The victory here scares many Union commanders, rightfully so. Kentucky has just recently joined. The Cumberland Gap is a very important place, so they start rushing reinforcements to the area. I know this has been a long and tiring week, but no week is truly complete without Daniel Edgar Sickles. Sickles is worried about his brigadier general position. It has yet to be confirmed by the U.S. government. This is obviously only a bureaucratic problem, and why wouldn't Dan Sickles get his commission? So he goes to see Edwin Stanton about this problem. Stanton is currently special counsel to Simon Cameron, the Secretary of War for the Union. Stanton and Sickles go way back, with Stanton defending Sickles in a murder trial. We really don't need to go into that right now, but safe to say that Stanton is very sympathetic to Sickles' cause. But there's really nothing he can do. The confirmation will have to come from Congress. Sickles understands, of course, and while this little meeting has not bared any real fruit for his military career, he is quite happy to see an old friend in a very high place. And so the week ends, with 1 Union victory, 2 Union defeats, and 1 battle still up in the air. The Ironclad Board indicates that this war will probably go on for a longer time. But really, this war has gone on for so long, it has taken too many lives already. And sadly, the board looks to be correct. This war does not look like it will be over anytime soon. Hello! It's literally the entire Civil War week by week team here. This time in a spiffy costume. Now, if you liked the video, please click like. If you want to see more, you should be seeing around now a recommended video for those of you with low commitment. For those of you with slightly higher commitment, there should also be a playlist of the entire war up till now, plus this week's episode. And if you want to see more, or the entire Civil War depresses you, and you're very worried, so you don't want any information about the possible Confederate invasion, which is coming right towards you, Maine, then don't subscribe. But for those of you who are willing to defend Maine, which is in imminent danger, please subscribe. For those of you who disliked the video, you're probably a traitor. Lincoln!